Here's what I'm going to be working on today in my video series of I just like to paint stuff, y'all. I like to make it over. No catchy phrases, no I did this, did that. I just plain and simply like to make stuff out of secondhand finds that people have discarded. I'm sure there's some faux pas there that you're not supposed to just say, I just like to paint stuff. I do. I like to take secondhand items that people discarded and I like to make it over, and I like to share my passion with you all. I don't know why we always have to come up with, I got it at Goodwill, I thrifted it, I whatever, you have to have the in the title. But starting this new year, I just plain and simply like to buy stuff and make it over. I like to decorate, I like to share my passion, and I like to make things look old. So if that is your jam, stay for the video because that's what I'm doing. The sweet viewer sent me this beautiful canvas. It is canvas. And we all know, kind of like decoupage paper, when you fall in love with it, sometimes you get the paper before you get the frame. But I think I finally found a frame. I'm so excited that I can put it in. Now I got to make a color choice. And she sent me two. But I only have one. I only have one frame that fits. Okay, I'm going to get it washed off while I'm thinking. Secondhand items, especially we buy a lot at auctions. If you're new here, if you don't check out our Journey channel, so you get auction lots and you take pieces that nobody else wants. And I'm always happy because I'm like, oh, well, if nobody else wants it at an antique auction and they're all antique dealers, resellers, because it needs work, I will happily buy it and put it in my stash until I am inspired to make it over. So when you get to pick out frames, I'm like, okay, I know it doesn't have a ton of detail, but it is a deep frame. I could use a couple staples to kind of tighten it back up. I'll take those off the hardware, see how it kind of right here. I just wanted to get that tightened up a little bit more. It might just be the way that it's going to be. It may not get any closer. Yeah, I got it in closer. So that's good. So here's our situation with the frame. This gold. I'm gonna see if running 80 grit sandpaper will do anything to it. There is a groove that I feel like I can. If not, it doesn't take paint very well. Oh my Lord, I don't even know what this, it must be some kind of composite that you'd put in a form. Oh, holy sanding dust. There's no rhyme and reason when you buy secondhand items. So the more I'm wiping it off, you can see why we need to prime it. Even though I'm not sanding it now, this is just coming off. So now this is shellac. It actually comes in a can where you can brush it onto, but I feel like if I brush it, I'm just going to be moving more of that material that's disintegrating when I hit it with water coming off. So I'm going to seal this in. I don't just spray one coat. That first coat is going to soak in. I need to go back with the second coat and then kind of evaluate if I need a third. Shellac dries really fast, 5-10 minutes. I can apply the next coat. But do mask on. It is smelly. It is an aerosol. I'm blessed to have a spray room in our shop where I have a ventilation fan. For collaboration with myself, I chose DIY's little black dress. I just think black with that canvas would be beautiful. So DIY is a clay base chalk type paint that can be water distressed. And you see it is heavily pigmented, so it goes on very nice. But also being a clay-based paint, you need to seal it in with something, and to add character to the frame, I will probably seal it in with some type of a wax to see what that does. But I am glad that I did the couple coats because it's going on very nice of the shellac, because the paint is adhering very well to this very weird, I don't know what the material is, y'all. But prep is key. So I'm on to my second coat. I know it looks like it's enough coverage, but once you go to distress it, it probably won't be enough paint. So second coat. Sometimes that second coat will take off that first coat, so you don't want to go back over it too awful much. But I do want to get 2 on there. So I think I'm just going to use this piece of plywood from Home Depot. These are the little squares that you can buy individually. It's just a workable size. So I'm just going to kind of lay it into the inset of the back of the frame, do a little mark, and then take a square and square them off and then cut it on the bandsaw. Now I don't want to make it a tight fit because I want to be able to wrap the canvas around the board, is my thought. I have never done a canvas like this before, so I'm winging it here. So it's very rolly. So I think like maybe I can flip it on its side, put a couple staples in. I'm not sure. I have the smallest staples that I have, the shortest staples. I'm not sure if it'll go all the way through. If not, I'm going to maybe try some spray glue. I feel like the canvas is thick enough that the spray glue won't go through it. I just don't know if it's adhesive enough, but I think it'll work for what we're doing here. This is some mighty strong spray glue, so I'm hoping. I feel like I can't just let it dry this way, that I need to actually shape it around the piece of wood. So I'm just going to inset it in there. And I'm like, okay, so how am I going to, if the staples go all the way through, how am I going to get this to lay on itself? So I have some cardboard tape that I've used for other like wall hanging projects, and I think that it'll be strong enough to fold it over, kind of make it tight on that board. That way the glue can set up. Sometimes you just wing it. Go with your gut feeling and see if it works. It seems to be holding it down. I wasn't sure if the canvas was going to be too strong and it was going to pull the tape up, but it seems like it's doing all right. Now, if this was an upholstery job, I would have kind of cut the corners off so it wasn't too thick, but I think it's okay. Now that I have that gluing, I'm going to go ahead and take the sander, just sand at the edges just a little bit, give it a little bit more character. Not too much because I don't want it to start doing that powdery thing again, but you can already see the detail coming through. Now to seal in my black paint, I'm going to use black wax. I love the Jolie's black wax. It's just going to richen it up. Like I said earlier, DIY paint, you have to seal it in with something. And I find that a dark brown wax, Waverly wax, something like that is good. If you do clears or sometimes a spray polyacrylic or anything like that on black, sometimes it can look chalky. So I just always usually go for the black wax, or even Waverly's wax. The brown antiquing wax is beautiful on black. And since you can water distress DIY paint, sometimes when you're wiping the wax off, it gets a little bit more distressing, but that doesn't bother me. I just roll with it. The tape seems to be holding just fine, and now I'm just going to use my handy dandy framing tool. Oh, I love this thing. So that'll just make it so it's nice and tight in there. And I know it kind of looks like a hot mess, but we can cover it up with some paper. So I just have some double-sided tape. I'll run it as close to the edge as I possibly can. And that's just going to help adhere some contractor's paper, which is that brown paper. If you don't have double stick tape, you could use hot glue also. So when I'm saying contractor's paper, that's just this brown paper sack looking stuff. You can buy it in big rolls at your hardware stores like
Menards, Home Depot, anything like that. But it just makes, that's what I actually wrap our table with, and I am using it for the back of my artworks. And to cut it, I just run the sander along the edge. It kind of doesn't give it a perfectly straight cut, kind of makes it look like it's worn over time, but it cuts it right nice and close. I know there's a framing tool blade that you can get, but I bought a couple and I've had no luck using them. So this is pretty lightweight, so I think just one of the hammer-in hangers will work just fine for it. I just need to find center.
So it's an antique spice container, but nobody wanted it because it's seen better days. It's rusty, crusty. I don't even, hopefully I can get the tins open. I bet I can. So we will see. The first things first is to try to get them cleaned up a little bit. Are tight fits. I'm a little worried about painting them, but we'll see how it goes. Oh yes, there's still some spices in here. Oh, nutmeg. Oh, that one's not gonna open. Oh, cool. Well, there we go. Oh, I'm gonna take. Oh, that paint's just going to come right off. And that's why you want to test it, because if you paint over it, your paint's gonna come right off. So we don't want that. It did work soaking it in some water. I'm able to get the last one open. I don't know what the spice is. You can see the outer is just rust. I think it was just tin, but I'm still going to, because when you go to paint metal, it's not absorbing. It's not something that's going to suck in the paint like wood. It is just be resting on it. So you want to give it something for your paint to grab onto, and even buffing up rust will help. So now I'm just getting them washed up so they can dry. Did I get all the paint off of it? No. Are they going to hopefully be better than what they were, and the people would like to display them a little bit better? I'm sad that it's cool that they're in the little lunchbox container, the holder, but hopefully by the end you want to leave them out. With what I vision anyway. And then on the inside of that little box, I'm going to just spray some weather defense to seal it in, because it was a really tight fit. So if I do too much painting, even like a little bit of layer of a paint can prevent something from, fitting again. So I'll just have to wait a little while for these to dry. And then I'm going to have to do a primer to help paint even stick more. But I don't want to do such a good primer because I like the chippy look. I like the age that it tells. So when I go to paint them, I'm only going to be painting this part of it. Especially since you'd be taking the lid on and off. If I would just use them for display personally, but somebody used it for their spices. I'm going to go ahead and get these sprayed with shellac. My little spice, I'm going to do pantry door, which is very similar to the Cheshire one. And then I'm going to do a little bit of in a pickle, because I saw a set of really chippy repainted in Burgess Antique Store, and I'm like, no, I'm not buying them. I'm gonna paint myself some, leave them for somebody else. So we'll see how this goes. So this will just brighten it up a tad. Just straight up green, no yellow in there, just green. I might add one more of it in a pickle. Yeah, I think that's what I envisioned. It's just paint. This is probably going to be a little time consuming. I have 7 of these, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint it on underneath where the lid comes on. Just have to figure out your stopping and starting point. And as you see, especially with thicker paint, it would just cause the lid not to want to go on. Then I'm going to turn, and then I'm going to do the same down here. I'm just going to kind of go along this little banding. Now, I didn't spray anything in the inside of the spice. Like I said, I probably wouldn't use them, just the age, but I usually will always get that comment. So I'm just answering it now. Your choice. A few more to go. Not necessarily the easiest to paint. So I'm just going to pick it up, let the brush do the work. So I'm going to close this. This is sealed in. I'm going to try not to paint the hardware or the little handle. That just kind of will make it coordinate together. And then we'll see how it goes. About milk paint, if when you're painting, if you get it where you don't want it and you haven't sealed it in, you can take something wet and remove it. So it's pretty forgiving. And it does do well on metals. If prepped properly, I'm sure. I love these little Stahlmeister brushes. The angle just, I know some people like big brushes. I just like them small. One, they're way easier to clean, and for me, it's easier to control.
Surprisingly, it does really well on metals. That cracking is amazing. I only did 1 coat, but now I am going to go in and I'm going to sand it a little bit because, of course, it's raised to get some bumpiness just to smooth it down a little bit. And I'm going to try to use the power sander to save on my hand. So I'm just using 80 grit because it is really strong. So try not to touch the metal a little bit, just using the tip of the mount sander. As you can tell, I'm doing a voiceover. But it just, it's amazing how well milk paint sticks if prepped properly to metal. After getting them all sanded, I'm just going to seal it back in with some Weather Defense clear coat. I toyed with like putting lettering on it, but I don't have any of those little tiny, even the IOD Apothecary, those letters were still a little bit too big, and that would be a lot of little letters to try to cricket out.
multiple drawers. Oh my goodness. So little apothecary style spice, but it's just, wood is awesome, but I don't know, there's something about painting things that just excites me. And then I'm going to change out the knobs, so hopefully I can get those little guys off. Okay, so I think I should just be able to, yeah, they're just kind of like pegs. They're just kind of in there. So once you loosen up the glue, they should just pop right out. Okay, so now I need to get these sand. I think it's oak, so it's a pretty hard wood, so I have 80 grit. Now, if you ever notice, I do use two different sanders because I need a sander that is able to get into, so a little mouth sander where I can't get into that spot with an orbital sander. And I am one I like to make things look old. So a lot of times I'll take the time to round off my corners. So if this was old, it would have been touched over time. The corners would have kind of rounded over time, and it just feels better on your hand than that hard edge. But when it comes to the sanders, I hand sand. When I started, it was hand sanding and then whatever sander I could buy. So you just kind of find a sander that works for you, and you don't have to have two. It is nice because it saves it's a good arm workout, but yeah, you need something to get into those little corners. Yes, you can get in there with sandpaper, but it's so much nicer to have a power sander to do the job for you. Because I'm not going to paint the inside of the drawers. I'm going to leave a little bit of a natural color. I even taped off the drawers, even though it's only like that part right there that's I could be touching with the paint. So we're just going to get them wiped off, get that sanding dust off of them. I'm using some shellac and this as a primer also that'll fill in that wood. So when I go to paint it, all my paint just doesn't soak right into it. I like my paint jobs to kind of have some character. For the little spice, I'm going to do a blue and I'm going to do denim. Denim's a nice color. It's a nice color. It's just a nice rich blue. See, it's crazy because it kind of, you have to wait for it to completely dry to get the full effect of what the color is, but
that did some wonderful things. It's funny because the sides are not as crackled crazy as what the top or the drawers are. Milk paint's unpredictable. You just take whatever it does, but I love that color. But now we need to get it sanded. Of course, there's some bumpiness from the milk paint, and I like to have things be smooth and then sand it down a little bit to the natural wood. While I'm in the process of sanding, I'm going to go ahead and remove the tape because where the tape in the paint there, it will build up and leave a hard crusty edge, but it's pretty easy. Just remove the tape and sand it off. So I think I'm going to use Homestead House, which is a antiquing wax. So this is a darker than what the aging wax is. I think it'll just really richen up that denim paint. So I hope I made the right decision. I hope that it sticks in those crevices and just gives it some yumminess. I know it looks pretty dark going on, but it's the wipe on, wipe on, wipe off kind of thing. And do you all have that thing? Porcelain knobs, when I see them when I am out and about, thrifting, antiquing, flea markets, garage sales, as you see, I have quite a stash, but I use a lot of them, especially since I like to make things look old. They seem very appropriate for lots of the pieces I do. Look, I had enough for this. And these have cute little details on them. And I thought, oh, that would just be so super cute paired with this little cubby. The only hard thing with buying thrifted knobs, they don't have screws and nuts. So I finally did find some on Amazon that I can keep reordering. Before I was kind of like searching my husband's hardware pile, constantly looking for ones that would fit. But now I know I have 1 inch and I have 1.5 inches and I have a nut that fits them, and I can just hit reorder when I need it. And sometimes the inch is too small and sometimes the 1.5 inches is too big. So I just take bolt cutters and cut them off.
An Apothecary, yes, one of the sanitizing antiseptic. I bought this in somebody's booth a while back. Somebody had taken the time to sand. Probably would have had a heavy layer of the white paint, I would think. I'm not necessarily going to paint the inside. I like the character and the story that it tells. I do have the glass. I just have to remember where I put the glass. But I'm going to be painting the outside, and then I'm going to be stenciling on the glass to put the wording that might have been on here back on. Okay, I'm going to start off by taping off all the glass. I cannot remove the glass. The glass is on there. It's painted. It's painted in there. That's okay. It's old, so I can be as messy as I need to be because I'm a messy painter. Look at my workstation. I just changed this paper yesterday. It's kind of weird too because there's not a knob. So I'll probably put a knob on it. I'll be mixing up some milk paint and making my own little concoction. So I'm going to start off with Cheshire in a pickle and Hollandaise. So my main base is going to be this light green color. Milk paint, as you see, is a powder, and I love to make my own kind of. It's my jam. I know the colors are pretty on their own, but it's fun to play. So getting that vision. So I have 4 scoops of Cheshire, and I'm going to do 1 of the pickle, which is going to brighten that up. And then I like that buttery, that hint hidden. So I'm going to add 2 of Hollandaise. And then the nice thing about it is you can kind of mix it up and you can kind of see what it's going to look like when it's wet. Because it's a powder that you add in with water, just room temperature tap water. I just always have it in like a little water bottle. But yeah, I think that's like the color I'm looking for. So kind of like an aged industrial, like a pantry color, but more of them in the medical field. So what I usually do is I'll do 1 less scoop of water to make it kind of a dry paint. You just mix it up as much as you want. The directions will tell you equal parts. And sometimes when I'm talking, I forget. I can't count and talk at the same time. But you'll know if you need to add more water because see, if it doesn't move around for you, it doesn't store very well. It does thicken up as it's sitting, so I always keep a water bottle with me so if I need to add a little bit of water to it. But look at that yummy color. I love the chippiness. I love what somebody that I bought this from, or they bought it like this, was going for. So I'm going to be using Sweet Pickins, has a beeswax. So I'm not going to shellac this piece. I'm going to, oh, look how pretty the beeswax is when it first comes. But I'm going to run, it's like candle wax, So I'm going to run the wax all over the places that I want to put paint in the hopes that it'll chip off. So we get that chippy look, like that inspiration picture I saw on eBay. And you can feel it on there. It's hard to see, but you can feel it. So you kind of just have to go by your feels. Then right on top of that beeswax, the paint's going to go. As I said, I mix this up thick in the hopes for some character to the paint. But you will know the thing about milk paint is it's unpredictable. You think you know what you're doing, and it's like, let me show you. So we'll just hope for the best. Hopefully I put enough beeswax on. Hopefully it chips and cracks the way I envision. Lots of hopes and prayers. Because unlike a clean paint job, where you don't distress it and it's just all like nicely painted, you can almost predict, almost predict it, but not when it comes to these kind of paint jobs. You just take what you're given, and I'm good with that. When you're using beeswax, you'll see spots like this. Hopefully it's showing up on camera. There we go. Where the paint's not adhering. That's what it's supposed to do. Your tendency is to want to go back over and put more paint, but you leave it alone. That's why we put that wax on there. Okay, here's the scary. But this is only the first coat. Lots chipping off there. But it's not your finished product, so you don't have to stress. We'll see what it does when it's not dry. Oh, that's a lot of chippiness. I may have put too much wax on that side. Who knows? It's okay. I can mix up another batch. Okay, so now I'm just going to get that chippiness off. A lot of times milk paint does that when it touches tape. I don't know why. I'm just going to take spray shellac. I'm going to shellac this in and then put another chippy layer on top of this. So same paint, or I tried to mix up the same paint anyway. So now what I'm going to do is I will run a little bit, not completely covering like I did before. So where there's a lot of the green, I will behave myself, because I have done that before where and it doesn't even pay attention that I put any wax on there. And this one's like, yep, I did, but I did not shellac it or anything like that. So I'm just going. We just want this to look really old and really chippy, and it's all good. We'll see what it does.
Or are we going to be having some fun with this piece? That's exactly what it's supposed to do. So now, before doing anything with it, I'm going to seal it in with some weather defense, and that's going to help seal in that it all doesn't chip right off. But that's what the wax was supposed to do, prevent it from sticking. Hardest part is to trust the process. I wanted it to be chippy, so I had to trust the process. Oh my gosh, that is just gorgeous. So now I'm just going to take the sander and we're going to see what chips off. Might as well take the tape off anyway while I'm sanding. I don't know why it is that it rolls the tape like that. I really don't know what the chemical reaction. That's the only paint that ever does it is the milk paint. And maybe it's the water. I'm not really sure. But I might as well scrape off the excess while I'm doing this. I thought while I'm making sanding dust anyway, I might as well drill the hole for the knob. So I think that's a good place to put it. Seems like a nice place to be able to grab. So I'll just drill a hole a little bit smaller, just a wee bit smaller than what the screw is that I'm going to use. Oh, I think that's a good amount of chippiness. The first one was a little bit too much, but this one is perfect. So I'm just going to seal it in. I know that I already did it with weather defense, but where I had sanded it, it kind of makes matte finishes just to even everything out, just to get my hands on there, rub some of the clear wax in there, see if anything else chips off, and that'll seal everything all down. I know it's not everybody's look, but it is a look, and it's a very fun aged look, and I think it's age appropriate with this piece. But I have to show you the cute little feet on the bottom of this. Look at those little buttons, little buns. And they're not half circles. They're not like a half of a round. They kind of like go in at the top. They're nailed in. They're solid. They're on there. I had to keep that detail, but that was something that you hadn't seen. And I just had to share it with you. I'm sure many of you use this glass cleaner, but every time
Honestly,
I'm so impressed
if
about
I drank
how
alcohol,
cheap
this
this
would have
glass
been
cleaner
one
is
of them that
and
would make
how
me drink
well
alcohol.
it works. Now I kind of
I
have
wanted to
rubbed it
do
in
the
there
old
because when I
timey
sprayed
wording
some
on the
of the shellac and I
Apothecary,
sprayed some weather
the
defense, I
the
got under
sterilizing
glass,
cabinet,
so I kind of
and I
needed it
wanted
to
to
get
do like
wet, and I
black with
used the
the gold
razor
lettering,
blade to scrape
or gold
off
with
that
the
buildup from the
like
spray.
where it was outlined. And because I was doing such small letters to go on here, my pressure wasn't right, whatever, forever. I couldn't so many times. I actually even did a Facebook shout out, like, help me, what do I do? So I ended up like setting my pressure low, my speed slow, and that seemed to work, even though as I'm trying to weed them, take them apart, they're just so small. So anyway, I got it. This is what it looks like. It might just be black, it might just be gold. We'll see. I'll see once I get it on.
Yes, all I had to do was probably tap the wrong button when I was putting them on after the paint had dried, my mic on after the paint was dry, and we get the echoing. I am so sorry about that, but I had to share that part with you because between the microphones and then my Cricut destroying multiple letters of it trying to Cricut this out. I didn't even video that. I just was, you get frustrated and you're like, I am just done. This is good enough. I just wanted to add the wording back onto this cute little cabinet. I just thought that would be like the final, like it needed to be, if it had it on, I don't know. A lot of them do have it on when you search them on eBay. So I was trying to do the font where you could have layers. So, and then like the main letter would be like black or gold, and then you'd outline it in something. There's actually Cricut fonts, but I think just because it's so small, it was just like, nah, yeah, it just kept taking the littlest line that's left on there, and it would just make it all wonky no matter what I was doing. So I just kind of gave up. So I think I'm just going to do gold because I think black will be too in your face and not age appropriate. But sometimes that gold is just translucent. You just really don't see it. So I have this other color, this Sierra, maybe it was called, acrylic paint. And I'm like, I think I should put that and that. Yeah, I definitely should put that as the base and then put the gold over it because I won't have to do as many colors. And I think that the gold will then adhere to that Sierra. I think it's a Sierra color, but I think that'll work out perfectly. Now it's the test. Yeah, like You don't want to remove your vinyl too soon that your paint is rubbery and that it just comes off with it. And then you don't want to leave it so long that your vinyl like just becomes stiff and doesn't want to come off. So there's like this fine line of, you know, like taking it off, especially it adheres really well to glass. But can you see those little bitty pieces? That's the pieces I was supposed to be taking off and being able to wrap it around, which that did not work. And so I thought, okay, that's why it's just going to be gold.
These make great decorizers. Look at 4 cubbies. Though it's hard for people to envision an old pop crate, maybe. There is some wording in there. I'm going to leave the wording in there, but I'm going to paint the outside, not the metal, just the outside. And I think I'm going to go with the red theme because there's red writing in it. Like they want it to put their decor in it, but they don't necessarily want it to be a pop crate. I don't know, is it a pop drink golden age? I don't know what that is, but there again, items that people don't want at an auction for whatever reason. And I'm like, oh, they're great decor pieces. Other than giving this a bath, there really wasn't much to do to it. So I'll paint this and this, not the inside. And I'm just going to be using DIY's Carnival Red. Just a nice, because it has red and it kind of goes with that barn red theme. However you seal it in, that will make the difference. And I'm kind of just looking for it to soak into the wood. So I don't, not really necessarily looking. You can distress without having to do chippiness and crackling and crazing or anything like that, just by sanding the paint off. And I know it looks very bright, but it's all how you finish it off. I like to do a lot of waxes, and that will change the color. Of course, it's bright because it's, well, yeah, it's bright. That's okay.
So I did 2 coats of the red paint. Now it's dry, so I'm just going to distress it using a sander. Now with the DIY paint, you can also do the water distressing too, but I don't want to get the paint to spread on the areas I don't want to have red paint. Just enough of 220 sandpaper just to show some age, show that it has been worn and used. So as you see, I sanded everything because there was a texture in the inside that would be grabby. It would grab dust. If you were trying to dust it, it would grab your rag. So I just like to have that smooth finish. So now I'm going to go in with Homestead House, seal that red paint in, and it's really going to change this bright. Oh, y'all. What looked very bright, it's one of those gotta trust the process, is just going to tone it down and look like that old barn aged red, just amazing. But I am going to wax the entire piece to help seal and protect all that wood and give it a drink.